All right, and shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Elder James, and I'm with the NC-KJBU University, coming out of Durham, North Carolina. And before we get started, we do want to make it known that we here at the NC-KJBU University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, we are not affiliated with any Christian organization or any Christian denomination, nor are we affiliated with any street camp group, any Black Hebrew street camp group, or any organization or institution that is affiliated with camps or any Christian denominations or any Christian doctrine. We here at NC-KJBU University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, we stand alone, and we only hold to the 1611 Sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha. So we just want to make that known, as we always do. So with that, I like to say shalom, shalom again to everybody. And tonight's lesson that we actually going to be getting into is entitled, Every Man's Work Shall Be Tried by Fire. And this is the part 2. So what we actually going to be doing tonight is actually just picking up from where we actually left off on last week. So this is what we actually going to be doing. So, in this lesson tonight is for us to actually truly look within ourselves. This is what we want to do, which we shall always be examining ourselves. But I want us to actually truly look within ourselves and ask ourselves the question, do we truly believe what we say we believe? That's why I want us to ask ourselves. So providing JEHOVAH was to try our works in the fire today. If JEHOVAH was to actually try our works in the fire today, would our works prove what our mouths have professed? Or would the furnace actually reveal something entirely different that's actually hidden within our own hearts? I want us to ask ourselves that question as we go throughout this lesson. And this is what we have to actually answer within ourselves. So this teaching is directed towards us doing a self-check. A self-examination to consider our own desires within our own hearts. So again, are the very things that we profess openly, are those the very things that we actually believe in our hearts? We have to ask, is this true? Because everything that we doing, we have to understand everything that we do is going to be tried and it's going to be proven to see what sort of work that it is. So our own desires are going to prove to us and JEHOVAH, are we truly of him or are we not? So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at where we actually left off from on last week. So when we looking at these trials, see, we have to understand that the fiery trial is meant to purify, not to destroy. So even JEHOVAH's jealousy, we have to remember that his jealousy is a consuming fire. So I want to show us something on this as we look at this. So we're going to go over here to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and recap on some things here. So we're going to go over here to Deuteronomy chapter 4. And we're going to start right here in verse 24. And then also just want to make it known that I also want to make it known that as well, we won't have any spiritual word meanings actually put in the chat. So we just going to focus on what's going out in the lesson. So we're going to start right here in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 24. And it says, for the Lord, so for the Spirit of God, thy God, is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. So we can see this right here. So we can see it says, for the Lord is a consuming fire. But we understand that this has a dual nature. We understand this. So we have to consider that. We have to consider the difference between genuine worship and counterfeit when we actually looking at this here. So what I'm actually saying is, if genuine worship is going to be sincere, it's going to be pure, that's going to be preserved by the fire. But if it's counterfeit, then it's going to be false, and with hypocrisy, that will be consumed. So that's all I'm saying. So Jehovah, his jealousy represents his protection and his defense around that which belongs to him. So this fire, this desire, is going to defend and protect that which is his. But on the contrary, it's going to consume that which is contrary to him, the counterfeit worship with hypocrisy. That's saying one thing, but then we doing another thing. So then the question is, how can a trial by fire destroy and consume what actually belongs to him, which is genuine, which is sincere, which is honest, and which is pure? How could that actually happen? Because Jehovah, we have to remember that Jehovah, he made the fire. He also made the vessel, because he made all things. So providing Jehovah made the fire, then how can it consume and destroy the vessel that belongs to him? How is that going to happen? See, that's the question we have to be able to answer within ourselves, because the fire, it can only preserve those that are his, because their desires towards him. It can't destroy that which is pure. And this is why we have examples in scripture to show us this clearly on what this actually looks like. Just like the example we seen on last week with those 3 Hebrew boys, in which we'll actually pull this back up on the point on what I'm actually saying. So we'll go back over here to, you see the 3 holy children, or the prayer of Azariah. The 3 holy children, or the prayer of Azariah chapter 1, and we're going to hit verse 27, which we see this here, and he tells us, it says, and made the midst of the furnace as it had been a moist whistling wind. So the fire touched them not at all, neither hurt them nor troubled them. So this is the point. So we can clearly see that the fire did not touch them, nor did it trouble them. Why? Because they was found faithful, not just in word only, but by their works. You see only that which is found impure or unfaithful will the fire consume. That's why it consumed Nadab and Abihu. Same thing we made mention of on last week. The same fire that consumed those 2 was the same fire that preserved these 3 Hebrew boys here. That's the dual nature of the fire, because their works was not found faithful. Speaking about Nadab and Abihu, because they was impure. They was unclean. Their worship was counterfeit. It was false, bringing strange desires. So it was consumed and destroyed because it was of another way. It was of another sort that was not of God. That was the issue. But I want to even show us something here, because we have to understand that when it comes to us, everything that we do, everything that we say always gets proved and tested. Because what it does, this is going to show us exactly how we sit there, we win and lose battles based on our faith. We pass and we fail trials based on our faith. This is what happens. So let's look back at this example here, over here in Daniel, because I want to show us this. Let's go over here to Daniel. We're going to hit Daniel chapter 3. We're going to hit Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3, and we're going to hit verse 16 down to verse 18. In Daniel chapter 3, we're going to hit verse 16 down to verse 18. It said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, who we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. Verse 18, but if not, be it known, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So we have to understand these statements here that's being made. See, as soon as they did this, they was guaranteed to get thrown in that trial. That's what I want us to understand. So their faith was going to get proven. But you can see right here in verse 16, they said, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. So they literally telling this king, look, they ain't careful to answer him, meaning they ain't going to hold back nothing. They ain't going to sit there and bite their tongue. So they ain't going to sugarcoat. They ain't going to water something down to make it sound a certain way to show respect to flesh. Because the same thing is that we can see right here. That's why we can see this here when we go over here to Philippians. We go to Philippians chapter 4. I can show us this here. Yeah, come on. So we get over here to Philippians chapter 4. We're going to hit verse 6 to the semicolon. And it tell you right here, Philippians chapter 4, verse 6a. It says, be careful for nothing. So we see this here. So this right here is what can actually get us caught up, because he tell us to be careful for nothing. So it's our desire that's going to prove what we are really about. Because if we sugarcoat things to please flesh, if we claiming that we hold into the truth and we'll water things down just so people won't get upset with us, just so people won't get angry with us, and we say within ourselves, I don't want to say this in this way because I don't want them to get angry with me. I don't want nobody to get angry with me. I don't want to face the heat. I don't want to face the pressure. So we'll sugarcoat. But he tell you, be careful for nothing. Be careful for nothing. So as soon as we say that we're going to hold on to God no matter what, and we're going to stand on the truth no matter what, and we won't let nobody compromise our beliefs and our faith that we say that we actually have in God. Yeah, shoot, all of that sounds good. But the thing is, that's just professing something. That's just professing something. See, he going to prove if we're going to hold to our words on what we said we're going to do. Because as soon as we say something like that, the first thing that happens with a lot of us, we start facing heat. We start facing pressure from family, from friends, from the job, even from strangers on the street. Somebody going to try to get you to compromise your belief for you to conform to them. This is going to happen. Matter of fact, let's look at something because I want to show us something. Let's go over here to Mark chapter 13 because I want to show us something here. I want to show us something over here in Mark chapter 13. Let's look at something here. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to Mark chapter 13. Mark chapter 13, we're going to hit verse 11 down to 13. In Mark chapter 13, we're going to hit verse 11 down to 13. And it tells us, it says, but when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what ye shall speak, neither do you premeditate. That's what he tells us. No, we don't sit there and try to premeditate, trying to predetermine something, saying, oh, well, I'm going to say this in this way, or I'm going to say this like this, trying to sit there thinking about how we going to go about doing something. No, because when we know we got to face pressure, then we should stand on what we know. This is why he say, but whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye. For it is not you that speak, but the Holy Ghost. So the separated body. Now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son. And the children shall rise up against their parents, and shall cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, so for my ways' sake. But however, he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So that's the same one that's going to be delivered. So this is the point. So providing the Spirit is in us, then why would we be worried about the pressure that we actually face? What's somebody going to say? Or how they're actually going to come at us? Because if we got to worry about how we going to say something, and we trying to be careful, and we premeditating on everything because we worried about the response and receiving the backlash, then that's showing that we more worried about flesh. So then how then is the Spirit then truly leading us when we put in situations like this? Because Jehovah, he even tell us right here, even through the mouth of Yahushua, he tell us right here, over here in Luke chapter 21. In Luke chapter 21, it shows this here. He tells us this. He tells us this in Luke chapter 21 and verse 15. He tells us in Luke 21 and 15, it says, "For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist." So if that's what we truly believe, then we are not going to worry about the possible backlash. We ain't gonna worry about those adversaries, those that come against us. Providing God be for us, then who can be against us? Because he said, I'm going to give you a mouth and wisdom. Why? Because his thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. So don't you sit there and lean to your own understanding and use your own reason in absence of his judgment, of his doctrines and teachings. So when we in situations that's going to prove our faith, providing we trust in Jehovah like we say we do, and his Spirit is truly in us, then he's going to give us the wisdom on what we need to do. But if we waver, when it comes down to it, and we trust in self, then that's why we fail. Because we more worried about the pressure we can face from the adversary rather than trusting in Jehovah's protection that is provided for us from his Spirit. See, this is what we have to understand. So the same thing is, for example, we can even look at this, for example. So consider a man who could be sitting there at his job and he professes himself to be a follower of Christ. So his profession should be reflected in his walk in all aspects of his life. So he can know that there's a lot of issues that's going on within his place of employment that he doesn't actually agree with, that he could speak on and address to possibly help improve the quality of the work environment. So then there comes a day when the boss of that company calls a team meeting to discuss different things that's going on within the company and any issues and improvements that can be spoken upon, which now this gives this man the very opportunity to actually address those issues that are present. So he says within himself that he's going to trust in what his belief is and hold to what he knows is right. But when it's time for the meeting, he sees everybody else is in agreement with one another on how the company is moving. So the current issues are not addressed. But the issue that he recognized and actually came in there to address, he now fails to make mention of it because now he see that everyone else is in agreement. So instead of standing on what he came there to do, he decides to back down, not willing to risk receiving possible backlash and to stand out from everybody else because he doesn't want to risk facing the possible outcome of facing the heat and the pressure from everyone else when they see that he opposes and challenges what they all have agreed upon. So instead of speaking on what he knows is right, he chooses not to say anything. So when he is asked the question, does he agree with everything that has been said? He chooses to compromise what he believes in, then quietly conforms and agrees with everyone else, just so he can avoid a possible heat and pressure from the other team members. So instead of holding on to what he professed within himself and proving that he is willing to stand alone on what he believes, he chooses to compromise in order to avoid the pressure of being faced with persecution from others. Now faces the shame and the grief of being dishonest with self, deceiving himself and saying that he would hold to something that he only proved that he could not actually hold to. So this very situation proves that this man's desires towards saving his own life, rather than standing on what he knows to be true, by even risking the possible persecution that he will face to hold on to what he knows to be true. But instead, he chooses to quietly conform to what he doesn't even believe. So these are the things that can happen. Why? Because our faith is going to get put to the test based on what we say we're going to hold to. So the question is, providing any of us say that we willing to hold on to God no matter what, and when that gets put to the test and we are tried by that fire, our very true desire will reveal and prove if that's true or if that was all a lie. It's going to prove what your faith really is. So the same example that I just gave, when you look at it on the flip side, you can see the same thing right back over here. When we look at these same three here that was tried, watch this here. When we go back over here to Daniel chapter 3, and we're going to, in Daniel chapter 3, and we're going to start at verse 12. And he tells us, it says, there are certain Jews, so there are certain followers of Christ, whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon. So of this house of confusion, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So, providing we gonna say that we are followers of Christ, then we have to be willing to stand up for what we know is right, even if everyone is against it. Even willing to deal with the repercussions that come behind it, even in the presence of the confusion of this world. Because as soon as you stand on what you know to be true in the presence of the world, people are going to try you. Soon as you stand for truth and we don't compromise our beliefs for the gods of this world, for their idols, for their ways, for their customs and their practices, they're going to persecute you. They're going to afflict you, because the same very trial is going to prove where your faith really at. The man in the example with the job wasn't even willing to stand on what he knew was right, once he seen that everyone within his company all held to the same belief. So he chose to quietly conform to them, even when he had the opportunity to speak, but still wanting to believe within himself that he trusts in God, but is willing to compromise his beliefs for the company that he works for that contradicts what he actually holds to, only facing the shame and guilt of his own betrayal. See, this would be no different from knowing what the truth is, but still choosing to bow down to the gods of the nations and the golden image that the king set up in his palace. You see, everybody else bowed down. That's why you see, he said, these men right here in verse 12, these men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. They not doing this. But you see, everybody else was bowing down. Everybody else conformed to it. That's the point. They was all in agreement with one another. But you had three who did not conform and who refused to bow. So you see this in verse 13. And it said, then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king, so in the presence of the king. So the same thing as we read in Matthew. As soon as you reject the ways of this world, as soon as we reject their beliefs, their customs, their practice, because you're not willing to compromise what you hold to, they're going to deliver you up to their councils. That's why you see they was brought before the king. They was brought before the presence of this ruler, Nebuchadnezzar, the boundary stone, because he going to make us choose on what we really about, and what we really going to hold to. Are we willing to conform, or are we willing to stand on what we say that we're going to stand on? He tells us right here in verse 14, where we're going to hit verse 14 and verse 15. It said, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, is this true? O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do you not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you be ready at that, what time you hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, yeah, if you do that, it's going to be well. But, if you worship not, so if you don't do this, you shall be cast the same hour in the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Who that God that's going to deliver you out of my power, out of my authority? So you see, he presents this ultimatum. If they don't bow down to this image, if they don't bow down to these gods that he set up, you either going to conform. He telling you either going to conform to our beliefs or face the ultimate consequences. So the choice is ours. That's why you can see he going to make us choose. It's going to prove on what we are actually loyal to. Just like to this very day, all of us that's in the truth, we know that this world is against us. but not because it hated us first, but because they hate the word that's actually in you. That's why you see this over here in John. That's why you see this when you actually, let's go over here to John chapter 15. Let's go to John chapter 15 and we're going to hit verse 18 and verse 19. John chapter 15, verse 18 and verse 19, it said, providing the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you was of the world would love his own. So the world would promise his own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. Therefore, so for that reason, the world hated you. So this world is going to despise you because they despise the ways of Jehovah. So providing we are truly following that way, then we know what we're going to go through. So we know we have choices that we have to actually make in this life, no matter who it is that we encounter. So rather, we are going to conform to the beliefs of others around us, even if it contradicts our own, or are we going to stand our ground what we believe in to be true, which is in Jehovah, regardless of the outcome, even if the consequences are life-threatening. Think about it. Even if we face the consequences of being persecuted, of being afflicted, of being talked down upon, of being spoken against, of being hated, or even going through much pain and suffering for the way of Jehovah, will you still hold on to what you say and what you believe? Or will you change it when the pressure hits and quietly conform to the ways of this world, compromising our loyalty to Jehovah for what is pleasing to the flesh? So again, we have to examine this example here in Scripture. So we see this again. So we see the response. So let's see. Did they consider this ultimatum that was presented before them? Did they premeditate it or try to sugarcoat this in a certain type of way to save themselves? You see right here in verse 16 in Daniel chapter 3, they answered. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. So this is the point. We're not careful to answer thee. This is why I showed us earlier in Philippians 4 and 6. Be careful for nothing. So this shows where their faith really is. It's not in self, but they standing on what they know. This is why even when we put in situations to this very day, when we go through these trials, because remember, this world is our proving ground, proving our faithfulness. So providing we are put in these situations, that's because we don't profess something that we now got to prove that we're going to hold to it or not. And that's why we don't profess that we are followers of Christ. We done did this. So we're going to get proved on rather that's true or rather it's not. Do we get the point? Hopefully we getting the point. So these three Hebrew boys here, see, people will look at this just as a title, like it's just speaking of three Hebrews who was delivered by the hand of God from the fiery furnace. And it's not just that, but that's how the world sees it. But don't understand that these three are three who has passed over. They passed over from the flesh to living according to the spirit. That's why they Hebrews. It's not merely just a title or a label saying the three Hebrew boys. It's not that. But by function, they've passed over from their flesh. So they're not worrying about flesh. They're not worrying about saving flesh. But a lot of us, we too worried about our flesh. That's the point. That's why you can see why they speaking in this way. Because they're not worried about saving their own life in this world. But again, how can we apply this same thing to us, providing we still worried about our flesh? Are we still worried about how we are perceived? So if we still worried about how people are going to take us and how people are going to look at us, how are we going to say that we passed over and we worrying about what other people think? Do we understand what's being said? See, we'll sit right there and say, we're going to hold on to God. And then as soon as we say that, then the trial comes to prove rather that desire is really true. Then when our family members start giving us hell, we say, well, I don't want to say nothing to my family because I don't want them to get angry with me. I don't want them to feel no type of way. Well, I ain't going to tell them what the truth is because I don't want them to feel bad. So I'm just going to keep quiet and keep my mouth shut. Better yet, when they come around and they start talking about their false gods around you, we say, well, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and not say anything. But then we're going to sit there and say within ourselves that we passed over. That's what we're going to say. So it's proven that our desire that we said we had towards God is actually towards self. Because we're willing to compromise what we say we believe in to conform to the ways of others around us. We're willing to sit there and conform to people that are nothing but flesh. All because we're worrying about how they're going to feel if we say something. But that is the very issue, because it should never be based on what we think, but it should be based on doing that which is right. That's why he tells us when we go over here to Leviticus. We go over here to Leviticus chapter 19. He tells us in Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 15. In Leviticus chapter 19 verse 15 it says, "You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in doctrines and teaching. Thou shalt not respect the persons of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. But in righteousness shalt thou judge, shalt thou teach thy neighbor." So it don't matter who it is. The point is, we supposed to be doing everything in righteousness. We not supposed to show respect to person, showing respect to flesh. So if we going to speak, we have to be doing it in righteous, with judgment, with doctrines and teachings, not based on how we feel. So if we're going to hold the truth, then it's better to be upfront and outspoken about it than sitting there watering things down to cater to feelings. Because now it's showing that we still worried about what people think and what people going to say and how they are going to react, because we still caught up in our flesh instead of holding boldly to what the truth is. So the same thing is, that's why these three here who passed over, this is why they could speak without apology to this king. That's why they said, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. For what? Because they not worried about flesh. He said, I'm going to give you a mouth and wisdom. They not worried about saving their own life. Matter of fact, I can go right here to even show us. See, this is why he even tells us this when we go over here to Matthew. This is why he even tells us when we go over here to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew chapter 16. In Matthew chapter 16, we're going to hit verse 24 and verse 25. In Matthew chapter 16, we're going to hit verse 24 and verse 25. And it said, "Then Jesus said unto his disciples." So these disciples are these followers, these believers, those who's going to follow in the same path. It says, "If providing any man, so any will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross." So take up his suffering unto death and follow me. "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." Because the same thing is, if we are going to follow that same way, in this same path of this way of salvation, then we have to deny self. We have to deny ourselves. And this is a hard thing. I'm not saying it's easy, but this is an issue for us, denying self. We have to reject and refuse what the flesh desires to do, what our very fleshly desires are. We have to reject those same things, and it's going to hurt to do so. Because the very thing you want to do, that your flesh want to do, you got to go against it. You got to fight against it and take up that suffering unto death. But the issue is, a lot of us will say that we're going to do that. We're going to say that. But the issue is, as soon as we say that, that again gets proven. That's the point. That gets put to the test. As soon as we saying that we willing to lay down our lives, he going to put us right through that furnace to prove what we really about. As soon as we sit there and say it, then we sit there and start wondering why we always in some type of hell and can't understand it. Because we speaking something that we really shouldn't. That we really know we won't going to hold to. Because we already know that our actions are not going to follow. He going to prove us on it. See, even then, as soon as we try to get ourselves out of a situation, instead of standing on truth, instead of standing on what we know, as soon as that heat, as soon as that pressure turns up, see, that's where everything changes. Because if we willing to save our own life instead of surrendering all to Jehovah, this happens when we put more value on our flesh. So the point is, if we are going to learn from this same example here with these same three Hebrews, we have to understand that they are not just speaking empty words to just trying to appear courageous. They're not doing that. It's not about that. So a lot of us will speak things because we just want to appear confident. We just want to appear courageous. But that is only trying to maintain a reputation. That is trying to maintain your own tower of your own understanding that you have built to appear strong, to appear mighty. And we don't want that tore down because we don't want to be seen as weak in front of people. So we got to maintain our reputation. We got to maintain the image that we built, our own God that we made ourselves out of. Not willing for that to be exposed. But he going to expose it anyways once we go through that fire. But again, what that's showing is that our desire is towards self because we trying to save ourselves to maintain our own image. But those who reject self, who are willing to lay down their lives in this world, are the ones that shall be delivered from the adversity. That's the difference, because showing that their desire towards God, that they trust in no matter what, because they're willing to lay down their lives regardless of the possible outcome. This is why they could say this here, which you see in verse 17 and verse 18, back over here in Daniel chapter 3. It says, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So that's the point. So you can see, regardless of the outcome, the stance did not change. Their stance did not change. That's the point here that I want us to see and understand. So can we say that when we are faced with the heat and the pressure of situations that threatens to put us under intense pain and suffering, will we change our stance? Regardless of the possible outcome that could come of it, will we change our stance on it? When you are faced with challenges that threaten your well-being, financial challenges that threaten your living arrangements, are we going to trust in Jehovah's provision, regardless of the outcome? When financial institutions threaten to sue you and try to take away your livelihood, and they put the pressure on you, regardless of the outcome, would you put your trust in flesh or what Jehovah can provide? Even when your job threatens you to conform to their beliefs that are contrary to your own, are you willing to stand up for that which is right, even if it threatens your standing at your company? Can we say that we're going to hold on to what we believe in regardless of the outcome? Providing our family and friends threatens to break their relationships away from us, providing we don't show up to their heathen celebrations and accept what they believe and what they desire, will we conform to the desires of our family to maintain those relationships over what we say we believe in? Or will we hold to what the truth is regardless of the outcome and the consequences that we may face in this world? See, these are the things that we have to consider within self. The reason it's not of our own will that we doing it. See, this is why we can even see this here. That's why you even see when you go over here to Matthew. Let's go over here to Matthew. You can even see this here. Let's go over here to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to hit verse 42. We can even see this here. It said, Matthew chapter 26 and verse 42, it said, and he went away again the second time and prayed, saying, oh, my Father, if so, providing this cup may pass not away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. So we can see this. So this cup represents these sufferings and these trials that he had to bear. See, this declares that the flesh is going to suffer. That has already been determined. And there is no other way around it. But when it comes down to it, we'll sit there and we're going to try to change it and get ourselves out of it and save our own life, to save our own skin when we are faced with the pressure. So, but just as you see here, he's saying, so if this cup don't pass away, so he said, so providing I got to go through this, he said, thy will be done. So not as I will, but thy will be done. But this is why we can have the issue, because we are not actually willing to go through what we profess. That is our issue, because as soon as we say it, he going to make sure that he put us through it. It's the same thing that you can even see here. Matter of fact, let's go. Look at this. Let's look at this here. We're going to go over here to, let's go over here to Mark, because I want to show us this here. I want to show us this over here in Mark chapter 10. So let's look at this. in Mark chapter 10, and we're going to hit verse 35 down to verse 38. Because I want to show us something. Mark chapter 10, starting at verse 35, and it said, and James and John, the sons of Zebedee, come unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire. And he said unto them, what would you that I should do for you? He's asking, okay, what y'all want me to do for y'all? What would you want me to do for you? And they said unto him, grant us that we may sit one on thy right hand and the other on thy left hand in thy glory. Watch what he said in verse 38. But Jesus said unto them, you know not what you ask. Exactly. But you don't know what you saying. Can you drink of the cup that I drink of? And be baptized and be condemned with the baptism so that condemning that I am condemned with? Can you? So he's asking them the same question. Can you drink of the cup that I drink from? Can you bear this same burden? Can you drink of this cup of this suffering? So when they delivered him up and condemned him to death, when they mocked him, they scourged him, they stoned him, they killed him, he's telling them all of this is going to happen beforehand. And they sit here saying, let me sit on your right hand and your left hand in thy glory. Are you serious? I know you're not serious. But you're not even considering everything that you finna go through and be condemned with the condemning that I'm condemned with. Can you do this? Can you go through this? That this flesh is going to be pronounced guilty? That it has to be condemned? Meaning your flesh gonna die. Your butt is gonna die. And you finna go through this dang suffering. Are you willing to lay down your entire life in this world? That you're willing to suffer your flesh unto death? Is that what you're willing to do? So he's asking them this. But guess what? You can ask all of us here the same exact question. And guess what? A lot of us, if you ask all of us here the same exact question, a lot of us gonna sit there and lie. That's why I'm not gonna ask the question. Because if we sit there and you ask the question, we ain't gonna do nothing but sit there and lie about it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna sit there and say that we will. Tell me we won't do it. A lot of us gonna sit there and try to play it safe and just say no just cause. But that's what we're gonna say. I'm gonna show you that's exactly what we do. I'm gonna show you. We the same exact. Watch this. Go to verse 39. Mark chapter 10, verse 39. Watch this. And they said unto him, we can. Shut the door. Shut the front door. They said unto him, we can. You see that? We can. So as soon as they said it, understand what's happening. As soon as they uttered two words, we can. As soon as they said that, now they done declared this thing upon themselves. The same thing that he was saying, they done declared it upon themselves. So as soon as this happened, and we agree upon something, that is exactly why we get put through the trial and the testing. That's why the persecution and the hell comes, because as soon as we don't open up our mouths to agree on it, that seals it. You're going to go through it. He going to put you through it. You going to go through it. You not change. You finna go through it. Why? Watch what he say. You shall indeed. Yeah, you finna go through it. You shall indeed. Meaning you must. It's commanded. No, you shall indeed. You shall in works. You finna go through this. You shall indeed drink of the cup that I drank of. Yeah, you finna do it now. And with the baptism, with that condemning that I am baptized, that I'm condemned withal, shall you be baptized, shall you be condemned. So he declares that this is going to happen. There ain't no other way around this now. As soon as we profess with our mouths that we can do something, we can, Lord. We can. We will. As soon as we sit there and do that, he declared that this shall happen. Not it might happen. He know you shall indeed in works. This shall happen. This gonna happen. It's commanded. It ain't no way around this now. You gonna go through the same suffering and these trials. You gonna go through this condemnation of this flesh. And you better make sure you endure it until the end. Same thing that we can see right here. As soon as that agreement is made, watch this. Let's go over here to Matthew. Because for some reason, I don't know why we sit here and we want to play this little game and we want to sit here and think that this is some little game that we can sit here and play. I'm telling you, let's go over here to Matthew. In Matthew chapter 3, and we're going to hit verse 13. In Matthew chapter 3, and we're going to hit verse 13, and we're going to take it down to 17. Matthew chapter 3, verse 13 down to 17, it said, Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John to be baptized of him, to be condemned of him. Watch this. It said, But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be condemned to thee. I need to be condemned to you. And comest thou to me? Watch this. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, watch what he say, Suffer it be so now. For thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. This will have to happen. He done stated it. This is what we have agreed upon to do. Then he suffered him. People say, I agree upon that. Okay, you will find out. And Jesus, when he was baptized, so when his flesh was condemned, went straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens was opened unto him. And he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved son. So my beloved servant, that Spirit, in whom I am well pleased. But guess what? The agreement was already made. Here, in verse 15. Suffer it be so now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Hey, he already done made this agreement right here. So guess what? He said, suffer it be so now. We got to fulfill all righteousness. That's what he said he going to do. So as soon as he condemned his flesh, guess what? What happened immediately after that? Verse 1. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. It's immediate. Because now Jehovah going to hold him to what he said to fulfill all righteousness. You said it here. Guess what? He going to hold you to it. So guess what? Any of us think we better than Jesus? So he gonna prove, if he got proved on what he said he was gonna do, and he got proved, guess what? Best believe every single last person here gonna get proved on what we said we professing or what we said we gonna hold to. Why? He gotta test his product. So as soon as he was baptized, as soon as he was condemned in his flesh, the trial came. Because he done made this agreement with Jehovah. Now he has to fulfill it. Now he has to be proven faithful. This is what happens. This is what happened to the majority of us. This is why we have to take this thing so seriously. See, what we have to understand is it's not merely being baptized that starts the trials. It's not merely that. But because of the vow, because of the agreement that we are making to pledge our loyalty to Jehovah by condemning his flesh, now we have to hold to it. He gonna prove us on that. Why you think we sat there and you was repeating those words that was being read to us? Why you think you was doing that? Why you think you was doing that? Why you think you was sitting there repeating those words? You making that agreement with your mouth. You professing it in his presence. You sealing that agreement in Jehovah's presence to condemn this flesh. So when we get baptized, when this flesh gets condemned, that's why the trial comes. So it's not merely a mere ceremony that we doing, but it's a legal declaration that you are surrendering your flesh or surrendering yourself to Jehovah, and you professing it with your lips. So once that happens and we do it, he has to prove us on what we agreed to. He gonna prove us on the same thing that we just agreed upon with our very lips. That's why the trials and the suffering, they must come. That's what it said. You shall indeed drink of the cup that I drank of, and with the baptism I baptized withal, you should be baptized. Oh, no, you finna go through this. Oh, no, your butt finna go through this. Because we don't agree. So he's going to prove what we really about. He's going to prove his product. That's what I want us to understand. Hopefully everybody is understanding what's being said. So we get back over here to Mark chapter 10. We're going to hit verse 40 and verse 41. He tells us, it says, but to sit on my right hand. So now he gonna correct them on what they were saying, and they didn't know what they were saying. He said, but to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give, but it should be given to them for whom it is prepared. He can't do that. Why? He tell you that's not in his power. That's only in the hands of the Father to give. That's why he tell you the kingdom is already prepared. Watch, observe. So we have to hold to what's been given unto us to do, but it's only to those who endure unto the end. But the issue is, a lot of us will say and do things that we know when it comes down to it, we really ain't going to hold to. We never plan to, but we still say it. We still profess it anyways. And this is why we have the issues we keep having. That's why you see they had a problem. Why? They had a problem with it. That's why you see in verse 41, it said, and when the 10 heard it, they began to be much displeased with James and John. They said, man, why they had to sit here and say, because they already know. They agreeing on something, but you have to consider what you actually agreeing to. You don't know what you're saying, because it's easy for a lot of us to say that we have faith on things, but that faith gets put to the test. But it's our works. It's our works that's going to prove if that faith is really there or if it's not. That's why he tells us, and when you go over here to James, we can see this. We go over here to James chapter 2, he tells us something. In James chapter 2, we hit verse 17 and verse 18. He tells us something. It says, even so faith, if it don't have works, if it have not works, it is dead, being alone. Yea, a man may say, a male or female may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. So this shows us that provided we say we have faith, we have to have works to back it up. So this shows that our speech and our actions, they have to align. They have to line up. We can't say that we have faith on something and then we don't actually have the works to prove it to be true. That's lip service. That's what I'm talking about. He's not going to take this lip service from us. See, the reason I run it is because when we are tried, it's our faith that's getting tried. But if we say we have faith and he tries it, it's our works that's going to prove and reveal to prove us faithful or not. Not just merely by what we professing with our mouth. That don't do anything. That's just lip service. That's a waste of time. Do we understand this? Don't sit there and give Jehovah lip service and we sitting there just wasting our time. We got to stop it. He tells us in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, I'll show you. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, he tells us right here, and not chapter 5, that's my fault. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 and verse 5, that's what it is. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 and verse 5, he tells us, it says, for our gospel, so for our message came not unto you in word only. No, it ain't just in word only. Watch this. But also in power and in the Holy Ghost, so the separated body, and in much assurance, so much certainty, much confidence. And as you know what manner of men we were among you for your sake. So you see, the message comes not in just words only, but We have to embody it. That's the difference. So, point is, the same word that we speak, that should show and be reflected through our actions, not just by speaking it. The same word that we preach, that should reflect in our very manner of life that we live. Because that shows what manner, what fashion, what sort of work that we are producing and where it's coming from. Because the same thing is, if we speaking the word, understand this. If we speaking the word and then our lifestyle does not align with the same word that we speaking, then is the word really in us? I want us to sit there and ponder on that and really think about that within ourselves. See, just speaking it isn't enough. This was why we have to realize the same things that we speak, Jehovah is going to prove us by the same thing. Just speaking truth does not make you righteous if your lifestyle doesn't even reflect the word that you actually speaking. Because he's going to prove us on the same very thing that we professing. See, this is why it's so serious for us. I'll show us something. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to Leviticus chapter 19. I'll show us something. Let's go over here to Leviticus chapter 19, and we're going to hit verse 35. He tells us. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 35, it says, ye shall not do unrighteousness in judgment. You should not do unrighteousness in judgment, in doctrines and teaching, in met yard, in weight, or in measure. So the measure has to be same. It has to be the same. It has to be just. So whatever we putting out is the same measure that must be measured back unto us. So the same pressure that we lay down in these doctrines and teachings upon the people is the same pressure that we ourselves must be willing to bear. Not only bearing it, but being the example. Do we understand what we're saying? So the same doctrines and teachings that I speak, I must be able to bear those same doctrines and teachings upon myself. Because everything that I speak is going to be measured right back to me. That is the trial. This is how this works. Anything other than that is unrighteousness. Do we understand this? Because if so, now I'm delivering a message. I'm delivering a message containing the very doctrines and teachings that I myself can't even carry, nor I can't even bear. Because now I'm not willing to carry the same load that I profess to another. So the doctrine and teaching isn't pure. That's what I'm saying. Because now I can't endure the same very thing that I actually profess. This is why I get so serious. It's so clear. It's unreal. It's unreal. That's what I'm telling you. Let's go over here to Matthew. He tell you the same thing. He tell you the same thing over here in Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 2, he tell you. Matthew chapter 7, this is why he's saying it. Matthew chapter 7 verse 2, it said, for with what judgment, with what doctrines and teaching you judge, so that doctrine and teaching you teach, you shall be judged by the same thing. And with what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you again. So this proves again what our desires truly are. The same doctrines and teaching that I profess, those same things are going to be measured right back to me again. Why? Because I stated it. That's why. Because I stated it. So we can't make statements and then don't expect to be proven by those same statements that we make. What we think this is? So that work, that labor, the ministry is proven by my own desire what manner, what sort, and what kind it is and what produced it. Was it of my flesh that was driving me as my desire to elevate myself? Or is it a desire to please Jehovah as a servant in the ministry? See, he's going to prove all of this. He's going to prove all of this on what we're doing, what our motivation is. See, this is why a lot of times we can speak on things and we find ourselves right there in the same situation that we spoke on. Anybody ever had that happen to them? And this not just teachers. This is anybody at any time. This is any time we professing the knowledge of God to others and you speaking a doctrine. You speaking the words of God, you speaking a doctrine. Then after you do that, you sit there and you find yourself in the same situation, sitting there like, dang, I just spoke on that. Yeah. Yeah. Because the same thing that you spoke on, he going to measure that same thing right back to you to prove if you really holding to what you saying. You spoke on it. Okay. Prove it. You know why? Because we can't use his word in vain. That's why he ain't going to let... I'm telling you, he tells us right here in Exodus chapter 20. That's what I'm saying. We're going to get ourselves in a lot of trouble. That's why he tells us in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 7. He tells you right here. It said, thou shalt not take the name. Thou shalt not take the way of the Lord thy God in vain. Because you take it in vain, that's falsehood. That's being a liar. For the Lord, so the Spirit of God will not hold him guiltless. He ain't going to hold us innocent. He ain't going to hold us blameless. That taketh his name, that taketh his way in vain. He ain't going to hold us blameless. He ain't going to hold us innocent for that. Because we lying. So if we take his way in vain, if we sit there and profess something in the way of Jehovah, and we speak in his doctrines and his teachings, it don't matter who it is. If we speak in anything in Jehovah's way, then he going to prove us by that same thing. We just seen it. He going to measure. He gonna measure with that same judgment, with that same doctrines and teaching that we were speaking. He gonna measure that right. He gonna turn it right back on us. And when we sit there and come up short, and we find ourselves, we find us living in the same. We find ourselves not living in the same way that we professing to be. Then we sitting there taking his way in vain. Meaning we 100% sitting there lying on his way. And he ain't going to hold us guiltless. He ain't going to hold us innocent or blameless. For one, we already knew what the truth was. And two, we didn't take it seriously. So we sitting there speaking his word, professing his doctrine to others, and claiming to walk in his way. So then when the trial comes, because he's going to prove what our desire really is, but then providing we do the exact opposite of what we claim and what we profess, then we have proven ourselves 100% liars and false in the eyes of the Spirit of God. Hypocrites. And he's not going to hold us guiltless because we lying on his way, because we sitting there professing something that we not actually doing. Meaning we going to have to pay for it. So this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. This is why we have so much of an issue. This is what I'm talking about. But that right there is exactly the reason why he tell us. He tell us this over here in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 37. He tell us, it says, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. So our communication is our speech, our discourse, our teaching, our declaration, whatever we speaking on. So let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay. So there's no in between. That's why the measure has to be just and equal. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Not sitting there letting your yea be nay and your nay be yea. Nor letting your yea be I don't know and your nay be I'm not sure. Don't sit here and play this game. So whatever we speaking, whatever we teaching, whatever we declaring, and whatever we professing, we either holding ourselves to it or we not. Because if we professing it and we not holding to it, then guess what? That's evil. Because now your yea is actually a nay. So providing we not going to hold to something and we already know that within ourselves, then guess what? Let your nay be nay. Meaning we don't need to say nothing. Meaning we don't need to do anything. Because again, he's not going to hold us guiltless. That taketh his way in vain. Same thing that you see right here. When we go over here to Galatians chapter 6, this is why he's telling us, he constantly warns us on this, on what we need to understand. He tells us over here in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. He tells us in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7, he tells us this. It said, be not deceived. Yeah, don't deceive yourself. You're not deceiving God. The only one who's going to be deceived is us. We're going to deceive our own selves. But he's telling you, be not deceived. God is not mocked. He tell you, We not finna mock God. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So we not gonna mock God. He ain't gonna let it happen. We sow evil, we gonna reap evil. People sitting there saying, well, I thought I was doing a good thing. Really? Because we sit there and we so quick and be ready to tell everybody else what they need to be doing, but don't even sit there and consider our own works. We don't consider our own ways. Well, I was just trying to do the right thing. Really? How you going to sit there and do the right thing by somebody else and we not been doing what's right by God? How that work? How we going to show by somebody else what they need to be doing and we not been doing what we need to be doing? I was just trying to do the right thing. Really? Then we wonder why we got so much going on and why we always having an issue. Why? Because we want to play dodo. This is what our issue is. That's why he tell you back over here in Matthew chapter 7, he tell you. This is why he warning us of this stuff. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 3, he tell you, and why behold this? Why you remembering thou the mote that is in our brother's eye? Why you remember the mote that's in your brother's understanding? But considerest not the beam that is in thy own eye? You don't see that big old beam, the big old log that's in your own understanding? Why we do this? What's the point of it? What's the point of remembering a mote in your brother's understanding and we don't consider the big old one that's in our own understanding? What's the point of seeing a little issue that somebody else could have going on and we can't even see and deal with all the issues that we got going on within self? We can't even see ourselves, but we want to see everybody else. This is why we keep having the dang issue. He gonna keep showing us what we about, but we can't even see it. He gonna keep showing us ourselves, we keep going through hell, we keep going through suffering, we keep going through these trials after trial because we sit and say, well, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, because you won't look at yourself. Look at yourself. But we want to show everybody else what they about. And we can't even look in the mirror and turn the mirror around and look at the filth of what we got going on. What the hell are we doing? What is this that we getting into? What exactly do we think that we trying to do? Watch this. Watch this. It get worse. Watch it get worse. That's why I said, oh, well, I was just trying to do the right thing. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Watch this in verse 4. It said, or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thy eye? I was trying to do the right thing. I was just trying to help him out. I was trying to get him to see what he got going on. Let me pull out the mote of thy eye out of thy understanding. And behold, wait a minute. A beam is in thy own eye. A beam is in your understanding. I was just trying to show him the right. No. Look back at you. And we're going to sit there and say, well, I'm just trying to help. How the hell are you going to help? And you can't even help yourself. The first thing, see, this is why, like I said, why we constantly always having this issue. The first thing that we try to do is to go around to everybody else and try to tell everybody else what they got going on and what they need to see and what they need to be doing. And we can't even get out of our own issues that we entangled in. We sitting there getting consumed and we trying to tell somebody, dude, what are you talking about? So what you think you going to do for somebody else? And we can't even see our own self. This is exactly why when we go into a teaching, any teaching, I don't care what teaching it is, we should not be going into a teaching or a lesson thinking about other people. It don't make no sense. Thinking about, well, so-and-so need to see this and so-and-so need to see that. I need to make sure, oh, yeah, that right there. Yeah, that hit right there. I need to make sure I show this to so-and-so. It ain't for so-and-so. It's for you. But we sitting there saying, well, they need to see this. No, you need to see this. You need to understand it. So providing you receive the lesson, then the lesson is for you, not for the other person that you sitting there worrying about pointing your finger at. It's not for nobody else to see. See, that's why even when Yahushua, when he would heal people, that's why a lot of times you see he tell them, don't go telling nobody nothing, because what you receive is for you. Matter of fact, let me show you what I'm talking about. Because I'm telling you, as soon as we receive some understanding, I don't know what it is with us. The first thing we want to do is go around tell everybody else about everything, and we barely know nothing ourselves. You just got the understanding. Now we want to go tell the whole world. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand. We see. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to Mark chapter 8. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to Mark chapter 8 and verse 23. I want to go over here and show us something. Mark chapter 8. We're going to start at verse 23. We're going to go down, but I got to speak on something. Let's go over here to Mark chapter 8, and we're going to start at verse 23. And it said, and he took the blind man. So he took the blind man by the hand, so by the power, and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. He asked him if he saw. See, what you seeing right here, this is the same exact stupidity that you have with that same dude, that same Michael Todd. I know some of y'all probably know who he is. That same dude, you sit there and got a video. See, I would pull up the video, but I ain't gonna say I would. But you got a video where he sat there, and the man that let him do it was just as dumb as he was. That's why he said, let the blind lead the blind into the ditch, and they both gonna fall. But you had this dumb Michael Todd who called himself a pastor, and he ain't hit pastoring nothing. He sat right there and he spit on his hands and wiped his spit across the face of this man that he had come on stage. And this same dumb man sat right there and let another man spit on his hands and wipe his dang spit straight across his face. And he sat right there and let him do it like a fool. But then people are going to sit right there and claim that Christians are followers of Christ. Look up the video. I'm not going to put, if you in your spare time, you can look up the video if you ain't seen it. Michael Todd, that's his name. Michael Todd, and he sat there, he spit on his hands and wiped his spit across this man's face. That's what he did. Because he claimed that's what he was doing. He ain't want nothing but a straight idiot. But you got Christians, they claiming to be followers of Christ. And they sit there and they make a mockery. They constantly make a mockery out of the Lord's way. And they going to sit there and talk about, they going to say, don't take the Lord's name. And they sit there and do it every single day. They make a mockery of his way every single day. Just as dumb as they can be. And that man sat right there and performed this disgusting act on that stage. And then the other man that he wiped across his face, he let him sit right there and do it. And people will look right at this man and say, this is a man of God. It's craziness. But the same thing is, this blind man here had to receive understanding. That's the thing. But people sitting there, you reading it, looking at it physical, and then you have the stupidity that these buildings do. But you see, this blind man had to receive understanding, not him spitting on his face. But the understanding that he had to be removed, so his spiritual understanding could be restored, because he was blind. He ain't had no type of spiritual understanding. He couldn't perceive the truth. So this is what was going on. That's why he said he put his hands upon him. So he put his powers upon him and asked him if he saw. In verse 24, it said, and he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. But he said right here in verse 25, and after that, he put his powers upon again upon his understandings and made him look. So this time, watch what he said, and he was restored. His vision was restored. Not his physical, like he now all of a sudden he can see. No, he understand what's going on now. He knows exactly who they are now because his understanding was restored. He was renewed in his understanding. Not that sitting there talking about he blind and he spit on his face. That's craziness. But you see, once he gave him that understanding, watch what he told him. That's the reason. Watch what he told him. As soon as he gave him that understanding, what did he tell him? And he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into the town, nor tell it to any in the town. Don't you tell nobody. But that's the issue. But a lot of us, it ain't for you to go around ready to tell somebody just because you got understanding now. But this is why we had the issue. Soon as we receive some understanding on something, first thing we want to do, now we want to run around and we got to tell everybody. And we just got it. Same thing. We go back over here to Matthew chapter 7, verse 4. It said, or how would thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote of thy understanding? And remember, a beam is in our own understanding. So the understanding that we receive is first for us. We need to make sure we understand first before we think we're going to tell somebody else what they need to be doing. What people don't understand is when you sitting there, well, a lot of it we have to understand. When you sitting there and you trying to profess all this information to somebody else and you don't even walk in the same way that you professing, and you can actually be a hindrance to that person that you professing to. You can become a stumbling block to somebody who's weak because you sitting there, you telling them one thing, you professing to them one thing, and then they see you living another way that's contrary to the lifestyle that you actually profess to them. Then they might sit there and think what you doing is okay. So they might start doing the same thing. So how can we correct somebody else's understanding without first having our own understanding cleared? This is what we have to understand. But we want to look at everybody else and we don't want to point that finger back towards self. That's why he tells us back over here in verse 5, thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thy own eye. Get your own crap out of your own understanding. Get that crap out the way first. Then shall thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's understanding. So we need to make sure we see it clearly first. We need to check. We have to check our own understanding first before we decide we're going to go check somebody else. But this is exactly the reason why we can have so much of an issue, because our very works that we doing are going to be tried. But when we sit there, professing one thing and it's tested and it's put to the test, then we doing another thing that's completely different from the very thing that we was professing with our lips. Then the fire reveals, it's going to reveal that our own works are the witness against us in that very day. That's what it's going to do. He tell us something over here in Wisdom of Solomon, even based on it. Let's go over here to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4. Tell us something. Let's look at this. In Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4, and we're going to hit verse 6. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4 and verse 6, it says, for children. So for these works begotten of unlawful beds. So these unlawful resting places are witnesses of the wickedness against their parents in their trial. Why? Because when we sit there and produce these works in these unlawful unions, it's no different just as a man laying with a woman that is not his wife and brings forth a child. That is a fleshly work produced from the wickedness of an unlawful bed. Just as the carnal mind producing these works of the flesh, because we rested in wickedness and start producing these unauthorized, unlawful, wicked works that are not of Jehovah. You want to see them? You want to see them? You see them right over here. Let's go over here to Galatians chapter 5. You see this here in Galatians chapter 5, and we're going to hit verse 19 down to 21. He tells us, Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 down to 21. It says, now the works of the flesh are manifest. They are made known, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, immolations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, rivalings, of such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. These are these children. These are these works. These same works that shall be witness against us in our trials. So when we're sitting there thinking we doing something and we not holding to the very thing that we professing or that we saying to be doing, best believe these works here, we're going to find ourselves in. So what you see right here, those will be witness against us. Why? I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you why. Because he even tells us when we go over here to Revelation, he tells us over here in Revelation chapter 20. See this. Let's look at this here. He tells us in, let's see, I'll do 150. Revelation chapter 20, and we're going to hit Revelation chapter 20, we're going to hit verse 12 down to 15. He tell you, he says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, standing in the presence of God. And the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead was judged out of those things which was written in the books. Everything that you're seeing right here, going to be a witness against us. According to their works. Exactly the point. That's why I say it's going to be according to our own works. And the sea, so the people gave up the dead which was in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which was in them. And they were judged, every man, every male or female, according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So when Jehovah opens up those books with those works of flesh found in them, we found in anything over here, when he examines us and provided he finds us in any one of these books here, he finds us in one. And guess what? He gonna find us in all of them. If you in one, you finna be in all of them. So we need to make sure, again, that we doing a self-examination now while we can. And see if our works be wicked. We can't just assume, we sitting there, we assume, well, we doing everything right and we don't examine ourselves. Because as soon as you say within yourself that you doing everything right, or we think that, I promise you, we doing something wrong. Because he going to prove to us that we not, that he going to prove to us that we not as soon as we get put through that furnace. Because like I said, right now is the proving ground. But this is where the separation is being made between genuine service and counterfeit worship. That's why I made mention of that at the beginning of the teaching. But he tell us something when we go over here to Deuteronomy chapter 8. We go over here to Deuteronomy chapter 8. He tell us something in verse 2. In Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 2, it tell us, it says, and thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord our God led thee these 40 years. So this proving through these time of this proving and these trials in this wilderness to humble thee and to prove thee and to know what was in thine heart. Exactly the point was actually in our desire, whether thou would keep his commandments or no. So you see how it goes right back to the heart, to the desire. Do we see that? So nothing changes. We can go all throughout the scripture and we seeing the same thing. It's our desire that's being proved. What do we truly have our faith in? Is it truly in Jehovah or is it not? You see, but that's in our own reasoning. That's why he even tells us this when we go over here to Sirach. He tells us this in Sirach chapter 27. In Sirach chapter 27 and verse 5, he tells us something. Sirach chapter 27 verse 5, it says, the furnace proveth the potter's vessels. So the trial of man is in his reasoning. So in his understanding, his wisdom, his discernment. So we have to remember that Jehovah is a consuming fire. We seen that at the beginning of this teaching. So, but that has a dual nature. But it's going to separate that which is pure from that which is unclean. You see, the fire only purifies and refines that which is of Jehovah, but it destroys everything that is impure, unclean, and full of dross and wickedness. That's what it does. So the trial of man is in his reasoning. So if we could be if we being consumed by it, by that trial that we go through, that trouble, that affliction and that distress has devoured and overtaken us, then we have to consider our reasoning. Because if we doing something based on our own understanding and what we think, then that shows our loyalty is towards what we think flesh can provide. See, we'll look for a temporary relief rather than full provision from putting all our trust in Jehovah. But like I said, once we profess something, he's going to prove us on it. We're not getting out of that. See, we'll say we're going to trust in the Lord with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, and all our might. See, that's not a catchphrase to just throw around. Those are not just empty words for us to take in vain. Those are Jehovah's word. So he's not going to let us take his way in vain. So then if we saying that, then he proves us on that. But if we not found faithful on the same very thing that we said, and we willing to give in to the worldly pressure and the heat from adversity rather than cleaving to Jehovah's protection, then we end up getting consumed by it because our desire was not pure from the start. So the thing is that dross has to get burned away. So what we have to understand is no matter the circumstance or situation, if we sit there and believe, we saying that God can change our world for us, do we truly believe that in our hearts and in our desire? Because it's one thing just saying it, but it's an entirely different thing actually living it. Because again, faith without works is dead being alone. So either we're going to bow to Jehovah's authority and be preserved by the fire, or we're going to bow to our flesh and be burned. It's as simple as that. So again, Jehovah, he's not going to destroy what actually belongs to him, but our trial is based on a choice. Rather, we're going to go through preserved or consumed. So when we go through a trial, it's based on a choice where our true desires are revealed. Do we live the same lifestyle that we actually profess? That's why I say again, it's one thing to say that we're going to hold to God and give him a whole bunch of lip service when we're not going through nothing. But then when he tests it to see what we're really about, then we start going through things and hardships. That's where it shows what's really going on with us. That's where we get proven right there in those moments. We either going to resort back to our own understanding, or we're going to hold fast to the wisdom from the scripture. We're either going to hold to worldly counsel, or we're going to hold to biblical counsel. We're either going to hold to man's principles, beliefs, and opinions, or Jehovah's principles. It's either going to be one or the other. But a lot of us, we have this issue, but this is exactly why we keep getting caught up in stuff over and over and over again. Why? Because we never learn our lesson. We never learn our lesson. We profess things to God that we ourselves know that we not actually willing to follow. We keep doing it because we stiff-necked. And he know we are stiff-necked people. He tell us that we are stiff-necked people. That's why we keep going through the same thing, because we never get it. He going to keep proving to us what we about. He going to keep proving to us that we not who we say we are. We always saying we keep going through the same thing. We keep going through the same trial. We keep going through hell. We keep going from one trial to another. It don't cease. It won't stop. Yeah, because you don't listen. We hard-headed. He said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. But if we professing something, then our works have to follow it. Because we going to get met with the same measure that we measure. The same judgment that we saying we hold to and we profess to another is the same judgment that's going to be measured back to us. And then as soon as we get hit, the first thing we going to do is always try to reason our way out of something and give our justification and our excuse. Or we going to reason our own minds that whatever we say we was doing was right. This is why we keep having the issue. And he going to put us through it. So, but this is where the problem lies. So, see, even though the fire burns, we all go through the testing and proving. But if our desires were truly towards Jehovah, then we're not going to be destroyed by it, but rather preserved. Then we wouldn't be harmed nor troubled by it. Just as we seen with the 3 Hebrew boys. They won't harm nor troubled by it. But rather it's going to reveal Jehovah's protection amongst his true servants, unharmed and preserved with an unyielding, burning desire to serve God in his presence. See, that's where it switches. See, we can even see an example of this on what I was just saying. Because I want to show us this up here. When you go over here to Exodus chapter 3, because I want to show us this here. So you can see how it functions here. I want to show us in Exodus chapter 3 and verse 2 and verse 3. You see what it said? And the angel, so the messenger of the Spirit of God appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. That's the point. That's the point I want us to see. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, and why this bush is not burnt. So again, we see further proof on what we were speaking on. True servants of Jehovah can rejoice in the midst of the fire, just as we saw with the 3 Hebrew boys, the same as we see right here. This is just showing Jehovah's presence amongst the congregation of his people with a burning desire towards him. So his presence provides guidance and direction to his people rather than causing harm and causing destruction. You see the difference. So you see, this is what we should see. And this is what we should be doing. Not worrying about the circumstances and the afflictions of this world. We already know we got to go through this world, so why in the world are we troubled by it? He already tell us that we got to go through these things, providing we hope to get to the other side. He already tell us this. That's why he even tell us that. Let's go over here to 2nd Esdras. He tell us this. Let's go over here to 2nd Esdras. Let's go over here at the 2nd Esdras, chapter 7. We're going to hit verse 7 down to 9. And then we're going to hit verse 7 down to 9. Then we're going to hit 12 and 14. 2nd Esdras chapter 7, starting at verse 7 down to 9. It said, the entrance thereof is narrow and set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were fire on the right hand and on the left deep water. And only one path between them both, even between the fire and the water. So small that there could but one man go there at once. So if this city there were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he shall never pass the danger set before it, so in the presence of it, how shall he receive this inheritance? This is why we got to pass through this way. He tells us in verse 12, it said, then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful. Verse 14, if then they that live labor not to enter these straight and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them. That's why I say, we got to go this way. We got to work. We got to strive. See, we already know there's danger on every side of us. So why are we tripping? Fire on one hand, you got all these desires and these temptations on these things on one side. Then you got this deep water, these deep knowledges, these overwhelming temptations. All this stuff is on the other side. Providing we already know we just passing through this land. Then what is there for us on the left and on the right of us? What's out there for us? What is out there for us to lose our focus and get distracted by? What is out there for us? You see, it's nothing out here in this world for us. Those of us who have chosen this path and have chosen to live according to Jehovah's way, it's nothing out here in this world for you. There's nothing there because you're not of it. So we have to come to grips with that. So we have to go through these straight and vain things. So this path is narrow. It's difficult. There's many sacrifices that have to be made. So it requires discipline and rigorous labor to understand what we need to know to get to the other side. But majority of the reason we can't get over there is because we just plain out lazy. And guess what? I've been one of them. So I ain't going to sit here and act like that ain't been me. That definitely been me. Because we want something to just come easy to us. But that's not going to work. So if I don't labor, I shouldn't receive anything. It's as simple as that. So the path is straight. So it's not easy. It's difficult. But it's clearly possible. Because if not, this wouldn't even be here for us. So this is not for our discouragement, but for our exhortation and to edify us on this path that we on. But we have to go through these things. And these vain things as well. The things that are seen as valuable and impressive to this world, to the eyes of the flesh, those same things are empty and worthless in the eyes of God. Why? Because it's temporary. It's of the world. It's corruption. So we truly have to come to a realization that there is nothing in this world that is of any true value, not any spiritual value, because none of it is going to last. So we have to go through this. We have to endure through this. Because the thing that we have to remember who we actually dealing with. Like I said, if we're gonna come to God and we say we're gonna serve him, then we have to be prepared to face challenges. Because best believe, which majority of us should already understand, we're going to face these challenges. But now we see why. Because we don't agree to go this way. So we can't sit there and want to turn and want to back up out of it. Because he tell us right here over here in Sirach or Ecclesiasticus. We're going to start at Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, starting at verse 1. And he tell you, it says, my son, if so providing thou come to serve the Lord. So you see, this is the condition that's set. So if you come to serve the Lord, watch what he say, prepare thy soul for temptation. So we got to be ready. That's the point. Because we gonna deal with it. Because it's gonna come. That's the point. We not getting out of it. He's assuring us of that. So it's better that we well equipped than we go in there blind. So we need to make sure that we are well equipped with all the understanding that we can get. This is why we have to be constantly learning. It's just like a man can't go to war without his armor. If a man go to battle without his armor, without his protection, he gonna get done in. That's the point. So providing we go out here in this world without being well equipped with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from this word, we gonna get done in. So we have to make sure that we are well equipped. That's the point. He tell us over here in verse 2, it says, he tell us in verse 2, it says, set thy heart aright. So our desires have to be established and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. So we have to constantly endure, because that constantness, it never stops. It stays consistent. So it shows your unwavering faithfulness, your determination, your resolve to continue to endure, your unmovableness. It's just as a rock that goes under constant pressure. It continues to endure because it's unmovable. It's not going to break just because it's going under constant pressure. It's not going to do that. We have to think about that. We have to think about that process that it undergoes. As soon as we face some type of trouble or some type of adversity, we can't be so quick to move, to let it break us. We have to stand fast on what we know to be true. See, this is what we have to do. He tells us in verse 3, it said, cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Verse 4, he tells us, it said, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art in your perfection and beauty, change to a lower state. Boy, I'm going to tell you right now. Now, that's a tough one. That's a tough one right here. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's a tough one. But we have to consider that. We got to consider this. So even when we are brought low to a lower state, even when we humbled and brought down, that shouldn't be taken as destruction. We gotta take that, because that's still an opportunity for growth, because it all serves a purpose. We have to keep that in mind and learn to show humility even in these lower states and these low positions. So I want us to ask ourselves a question. Can we endure the change of position with humility when we are actually brought low? Can we actually endure that? See, let's consider a man who worked as a long-time manager or a long-time supervisor at a company for some years. But in one meeting, the company determines that his work has become inadequate for the current needs of the business and determined that this man was no longer effective for the position. So they decide to remove him and replace him and puts him in a lower position among the common people, the common workers. So now consider how you would actually feel being in this same man's position. How would you feel? Consider that. You see, the natural response would be to hastily respond in anger, respond in confusion, and take out his frustration on the company, and even place blame towards the higher ups for his removal. But never, ever, ever did he think to consider his ways, or held himself accountable for his own works? But again, he tell you, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou in your perfection and beauty change to a lower state. So even though the change may initially be frustrating and confusing in his own eyes, but he must learn to examine himself and his own works and his own position and the reason behind the change, instead of quickly taking it out with frustration and attempting to justify his position he held. He must learn to take it with humility. For a man that is just, though he may fall, he shall rise up again. See, this can be a hard thing for us to deal with. So even though a lot of us can experience these types of circumstances in different aspects of our lives, even though we are brought low and humbled, question is, how do we respond in that same situation? I'm not saying what we're gonna do. No, when we face with that situation, how do we actually respond? Are we able to take it with humility, or do we always first tend to respond out of anger and frustration? How do we do that? How do we see it? You see, the man who accepts it in meekness can receive discipline and correction and take it with humility as a learning experience and continue to work and grow from it. Though he was brought low, he's able to learn. Now he can begin to increase and grow. But the man who receives it with constant frustration always going to be quick to respond in aggression and anger, even giving his excuses and justification for himself due to his own pride, refusing to accept the change because he refuses to deny himself rather than taking up his own cross, not recognizing that he is in need of refinement. But that's why he even tells us right here. He tells us right here in verse 5, he tells us something. It says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. He tell you, acceptable men. See, these are those that have been tried through the furnace, that are approved of God, and that are found pleasing in his eyes. So not in yourself, not praising yourself, not admiring and boasted upon self, but being found approved and faithful in Jehovah's eyes. So we got to go this way. We got to go. This is the way that we have to go. See, I want to show us something. He tell us over here. Oh yeah. So I know it's going to do that. So he tells us over here in Genesis chapter 2. In Genesis chapter 2, we hit verse 11 and verse 12. He tell you, it says the name. So the way of the first is Pison. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. So the same ones he talking about right here, those are the acceptable men who've been tried through the fire. The gold of that land, that's good. These acceptable ones. He said there is bdellium and the onyx stone. So these ways are engraved. So it's still making that separation. But all of us have to go through here. Because you see right here where it say in the land of Havilah, there is gold. And the gold of that land is good, meaning it's pleasant, it's righteous. The same acceptable ones that had been approved of God. That's been tried, that's been proven through the fire. So this gold is not speaking of material value as men see gold, as in worldly riches and worldly substances. But this gold is of spiritual value and spiritual wealth. Those who have been proven and tried through the fire. Because even with gold, see, the carnal mind will even look at gold and is just impressed merely by how shiny it looks, by the outward appearance and the beauty of it on the outside, but don't consider what it had to go through for it to become what it is. It had to be refined. For all the dross that had to be burned away. It had to endure through the heat and the pressure of the furnace, this proven, for it to come out as pure gold. So the same thing is Jehovah, he's not looking on the outward appearance of man. He's not looking at how good we think we look. He's not looking at the impressiveness of our speech, how much knowledge that we believe that we have, but he's going to be pleased by those that are proven faithful, who's going to go through, those who can endure the trials, through the pain and suffering of the testing, through this land. Those who can endure it and are proven faithful are refined as gold, not just those that are speaking of it and professing it alone. This is why I say the gold of that land, of this people, is good, because they have been proven righteous, faithful, and pleasant in the eyes of the Spirit of God, not in the eyes of men according to the flesh. So the same as he say that everything that he made was good, in the same way. So that's why you see when you go over here, I know it's going to do this thing again, but that's, oh, never mind, it didn't do it. But the same thing as you see when you go over here to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31, you see here, and it said, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, remember, it was very good. So everything that God made in creation, he declared it to be very good, because it was created exactly for what it was made for, to fulfill its purpose in creation. So the same thing that God made in creation that he declared was very good is the same as we see here in the land of Havilah, where the gold of that land is good, because it has fulfilled its purpose that it was created to do. So it's pleasant. It's good because it serves its purpose. This is why each and every single one of us here must go through this land. This is our purpose. So this proving ground, this Havilah, we have to go through so we can fulfill our purpose and be found pleasant in the eyes of the Most High. This is the point. So he tell us something when we go over here to 2nd Esdras. He tell us something over here in 2nd Esdras. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to 2nd Esdras chapter 16. And 2nd Esdras chapter 16, and we hit verse 73. Tell us something here. 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and verse 73, it says, then shall they be known who are my chosen. Once we go through, and they shall be tried as comparing gold in the fire. Exactly the point. Then shall they be known who are my chosen. That's when it's going to be revealed. Those of us that are his and those of us that are not. Why? Because that separation is still being made. Because when we going through here, we can see. So this Pison flows through Havilah. That's why I say that the first is Pison. It is that which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there's gold. So the Pison flows through Havilah. So Pison, it functions as the diffusion of waters, of knowledges, this flowing stream of knowledges, same knowledges that we receive on a daily, weekly basis. Same knowledge, same word, same flood, stream of knowledge that we receiving daily, that we receiving weekly. But the Havilah is the sandy area, trembling with pain. So this proving ground that we in. So while we receiving this daily knowledge, this constant flowing of knowledge that's flowing through, this same diffusion of knowledge, this same doctrine that we are receiving, providing we apply it while we going through these trials, then we are being purified and being refined as gold. That is what we should be doing. But those of us who only merely hear the word, who only hear the knowledge and receive the doctrine constantly, but still refuse to apply it to ourselves, then it's showing our resistance to the knowledge that we actually receiving. That's why it's trembling. That's why it's trembling, because it's revealing our unbelief and our refusal to surrender to it, because we still resisting the knowledge that is actually we supposed to be receiving. Because we receive constant knowledge, but when we're not living in it and we just hearing it, but we getting proved and tested on the same knowledge that we're receiving. So sitting there saying that we understand it and we really don't, this is what is going to get a lot of us to falter and fall. Because we sitting there saying we understand something and we don't. Because some of us going to continue to stay in constant resistance and refuse to settle and to cross over to the other side. Some of us are going to, but then some of us are going to surrender and be refined as gold. But it all goes back to what is revealed, what's actually revealed, and what our true desire really is. That's what it's going to go back to. That's what it's going to go back to at the end of the day. So I'm gonna go here. Let's go over here to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 13, he tells us. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 13, it says, so every man's work shall be made manifest. It's going to be made known. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. So by that desire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. So when we get put through the fire, it can only reveal one or two things. It's going to reveal what our true desires is. Is it truly towards Jehovah? If so, then this reveals the gold that is tried by the fire in the land of Havilah. Or is our desire truly towards our flesh? And this is that is burned and destroyed. So when we get put through the furnace, that trial by fire, it's going to show where our faith really is. Are we who we say that we are? Are we going to hold to that which we say we're going to hold to? See, all of this gets put to the test. All of that get put in there. We either get proven faithful that we can hold to our word and come out as gold, or we get proven to be liars, that we can't hold to what we have spoken or agreed upon based on our works. It's as straightforward as that. So providing that, so let's hit verse 15. Let's hit verse 14 and verse 15. I want to show us something. It said, so if any man's work abide that which he have built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. Yeah. But if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss. But he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. So if we suffer loss, then so be it. It's better that we suffer loss in this world and still have an opportunity to receive salvation. That's the whole point. That's why you see us here. So the work that was burned was of the flesh, works of the flesh. It was no good. It was burnt to ashes. It's burnt to nothing. It all has to be burned away. Every single last bit of it. I'm sure most of us here should remember that teaching that Elder actually did with the parable of the woman with the burning field. Do we remember that? I know most of us, we should remember that. But we need to remember that. Because we look back at that, that lets us know everything that we've built according to this flesh has to burn. Our own labors, our own strivings, our own deeds that we've done according to our own works. Providing we've sat there and we mixed our own carnal ways with pure doctrine. We've mixed our own self-reasoning with Jehovah's word. So this is the result of us not being able to distinguish true worship from counterfeit. Distinguishing the difference between genuine worship and counterfeit worship. Why? Because there's too many things that we sat there that we brought with us from those dang institutions that we came from. We've offered lip service more than a willingness to surrender. We speak of things that we do not. We profess things that we can't even hold to. So we brought these practices, these customs, these same manners and fashions of counterfeit worship into Jehovah's presence. So again, his way will not be mocked. So to rectify all of this, it got to be burned. All of it. So anything that we built based on our own understanding, it has to be burned. It has to be destroyed. Because if not, and we want to hold on to it, here's what, we're going to get destroyed with it. So this is what we have to do. As he tell us, let's go over here to, I want to show us something over here in Sirach. Show us something in Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 20. Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 20, and we're going to hit verse 9. Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 20 and verse 9. He tell you something. It says, there is a sinner that have good success in evil things, and there is a gain that turneth to loss. So it doesn't matter how much success that we have, and how much that we've gained. No matter how much abundance and prosperity that we've had, but how did we get it? That's the thing. Think about all the evil that we've done to get all this prosperity and this success in this world. Even looking on the physical side. Look at how many of us, we sit there and we'll put a job over worship to Jehovah. Putting labor for this world even over Jehovah's Sabbath day, the day that's separated. Even if we can get off, we gonna work anyways. Why? Because we love how the money looks more. Even putting our own labors over the studies and our devotion to God. Seeking after these achievements and these reputations in this world by mixing that with our worship to God. It's not going to happen. All of that, we got to get rid of it. This is why a lot of us, we've been in great positions. A lot of us, we've had great status and success in this world, seeking after the prosperity of the wicked, even though we shouldn't have been seeking it. But we did it anyways. So all of that we've gained in this world from our own evil works, it has to burn. Remember the man that was brought into a low estate. Remember that. The man that was brought into a low estate. So this is what we have to understand. See, I even use myself as an example. See, I sought after my own reputation, my own status, my own notoriety, my own achievements, being consumed in pride and self-glory while disguising that as confidence in Jehovah, in my own self-will, even being consumed in fear and doubt while trying to disguise that as trust, strength, and assurance. But guess what? All of it. Once it was proved, it was all revealed to be a lie. You see, all of that was built on my own desires, not by Jehovah's, but seeking after my own will rather than his will, by pretending to be something that I wasn't, desiring to be perceived as something. So those very things get exposed because I chose to mix genuine worship with my own carnal ways, with my own motives, believing that I was doing something. But when the test came, my desires proved what was really there. So it all has to be destroyed. It all has to be destroyed. All of it. So then, only then can Jehovah then build upon it. So we have to be willing to lose everything in this world that we desire in this flesh. We have to be willing to let all of this go, to let everything go, to let go of that rope that we holding on to. We got to come down from that tower. Only then can the true change happen. So we must lose everything of self by denying self and bearing our cross in this life in order to gain everything in the world to come. This is what we have to do. This is what we have to do, and this is what we have to understand. You tell us something. We go over here to Philippians. Tell us over here in Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3, we'll hit verse 7 and verse 8. Philippians chapter 3, we're going to hit verse 7 and verse 8. It says, "But what things was gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ." Exactly the point. Yea, doubtless, I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus. So the anointed way of the way of salvation, my Creator, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, they filth, that I may win Christ. So we have to understand, even that what seems like loss isn't truly a loss, because it's worthless. Everything that we lose in this life, we don't understand. We have to understand that he's going to take us through things, because all of this dross that needs to be removed off of us. That's what we got to understand. So it's not really a loss, maybe to the flesh, but we have an opportunity to gain something greater in the life to come. That's why he even tell you, when you even go over here, the Proverbs chapter 3, you even see here, you might lose things according to this world, but we can gain something that can't no man take away from you. That's why you see here in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13 and 14, it said, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold." You can't put no price on this. This is the point. So this is more valuable than anything that we could ever think to gain in this life. So it doesn't matter what we've had in this world or who we were. If things is taken away from us, we have to remember, as he said, when thou art brought to a low estate, be patient. Be patient. We have to be able to show humility so we can be refined. So we have to remember, as we being proven, as we are being proven, and always keep in mind that everything that we do, everything that we profess, we need to always make sure that we holding fast to the same thing. We always let our words stay the same. Keep the same conversation. If we saying something, we need to make sure we hold into it. We let our yea be yea, and we let our nay be nay. So providing we hear and we professing ourselves to be followers of Christ, then we need to truly self-examine and do a self-examination of self. We need to do a self-check to see what's going on within our own desires. See what our motives are. What motivates us on this path that we on? And make sure what our desire actually is. If we need to make sure, we need to check to see what that truly is. Because Jehovah, he gonna prove us. He gonna prove us. And our desires, when it's tested, it's gonna reveal what we actually about. And are we who we actually say we are? So we want to keep all this in mind as we continue to move forward on this journey. So, with that, I'd like to appreciate everyone for coming out and tuning in to this lesson. So, but we're going to stop right here. And then, from here, we'll move forward. So with that, appreciate you guys for coming out and tuning in. This was Elder James with the King James Bible University. And I would like to say, Shalom.